Let's get you ready for week 6 by telling you which running backs to start or sit in fantasy football. All right, let's get into it with the must starts. Look, for the most part, you got these running backs. You don't need to think about it. They should be in your lineup. And let's start with Saquon Barkley coming off of bye week. I mean, doesn't matter who he's against. He has been a beast for Philadelphia. You got him, you roll with him. The same thing goes for Alvin Kamara. I mean, look, there's no reason not to start him. Some people, for some reason, asked questions. Do I start Kamara this week? Yes, you start him and you take what he gives you. What about Derrick Henry? Look, do we even have to question this anymore? Even though it wasn't a huge rushing output last week, he's scoring every single week. At this point, his underdog pick is to go lower on touchdowns, and you actually have better odds if he doesn't score a touchdown. You got to start Derrick Henry in fantasy. Jahmyr Gibbs, no reason to question him either. And then Jonathan Taylor, I mean, if you got him, you want to start him, but you're definitely going to have to check if he's available. I'm having my doubts, but if he gives it a go, you just have to put him in your lineup. Now, Chris, we've been calling Jordan Mason a must start, and he's given us good reason to. Do you still feel that way after maybe not so good a performance in week 5?
Yes, I do. This is a weird game. I don't know why the 49ers threw the ball so much in this game. They were controlling the game. He was running for over 6 yards a carry, and they just decided to throw it a bunch. But he's been great this year. He's still a workhorse running back in this 49ers offense. I think you have to start Jordan Mason.
Yeah, that's the thing. He didn't do anything to make you doubt him. And again, he's like you just said, workhorse running back, San Francisco offense. I think you can't overthink these things. Matchup doesn't really scare me away from him anyway. So I got Mason. I'm not worrying about it. What about Bijan Robinson, though? I mean, some people might say, look, you're just putting him in this category just because his name is Bijan Robinson. You drafted him in the first round, but we're still holding out some hope for him.
Yeah, I mean, I get that argument. I totally understand that. But here's the real reason we're putting him in this tier. He gets the Carolina Panthers this week, who are the worst run defense by a mile, giving up over 22 fantasy points to running backs this year. They've allowed 10 touchdowns to running backs. If he can't do it this week, then yeah, he's coming out of this tier. But against the Panthers, I think you got to start him.
Exactly. I mean, name me how many running backs you really want to put in over Bijan. You probably don't have them all on your roster. And again, it's not like he was bad. It's just he didn't get used enough, which has kind of been the problem his whole early career so far. But I do think you have to keep him in your lineup and take what he gives you against this Panthers defense, like you said. All right, let's dig into the next tier. These aren't absolute no-brainers, but we call them strong starts. For the most part, if you have these RBs, you're good to go. Starts with James Conner, still the workhorse in Arizona. Not a bad matchup against Green Bay. You're good with Conner. What about Josh Jacobs on the other side there? Same thing. Look, the results have been a little bit up and down, but he's still getting all the run there, and this offense is clicking, so keep Jacobs in there if you got him. Chuba Hubbard, I mean, this is maybe one of the best waiver wire pickups of the season so far. Not sure how long it'll last, but just keep rolling with it as long as he's doing what he's doing. And then James Cook did bounce back last week, had a nice game. Look, I guess the Jets aren't a great matchup for him, but I don't care. I'm still playing James Cook for the most part if I do have him. What about Brian Robinson? I really just want to call him a must start. I have no reason not to start Brian Robinson. He's been so good. He keeps scoring touchdowns. Is he still at this tier for you?
Yeah, he's still at this tier for me. I mean, look, he's climbed up from, like a flex option to a solid start to a strong start. Maybe he's going to climb to must start pretty soon, but it is a tough matchup this week against the Ravens. They are very strong against the run, but yeah, like you said, so much touchdown upside. I think for the most part, Brian Robinson needs to be in your lineup.
I think he's still getting disrespected or at least underappreciated in fantasy. He's for real. This offense is obviously for real. Yeah, if I have Brian Robinson, I want him in my lineup. And then Kenneth Walker, well, okay, this was not a good output for him. This was just not a good game for Seattle. What happened in Seattle?
I don't know. I think we're maybe underestimating the Giants' defense a little bit, but this is just one of those games. But here's what I like about Kenneth Walker. He's getting targets. Even though he's only played 3 games this year, he's 17th among all running backs in targets, and he's 11th in route percentage. If he's going to catch passes, he's going to be a monster. Keep him in your lineup.
Yeah, I think anybody who's doubting Walker just because of a down game is totally falling into recency bias. You're forgetting how dominant he was. Again, I know he was hurt a couple games, but still, early part of the season, he has been a beast. I love Kenneth Walker still. And I'll tell you what, I actually like the fact that he only ran for 19 yards last week because that has lowered his line on underdog right now. You do these early week pick'ems, you see that it is 54 and a half rushing yards. I think he's going to smash that this week. So I'm taking the higher. And if you're new to underdog, guess what? You get a free pick to combine with that Kenneth Walker pick. You can get Brock Purdy higher than zero point 0.5 yards. That's right. Brock Purdy, that's a free pick. Combine it with a Kenneth Walker pick. Great chance to win right off the bat. If you do sign up for an underdog for the first time, make sure you put in code ENDGAME to get you that free Purdy Pick'em, along with all the other promotions they have, including up to $1,000 of bonus cash for your first deposit. And then I know some people now seeing Breece Hall up this high, again, sounds weird, but some people are going to just question this. Do we really have to start Breece Hall after what he did and what the way the Jets look?
I think you do still have to start him this week because it's the Buffalo Bills, who are the second worst against the run. They're kind of a run funnel right now, right? Very good against the pass, not so good against the run. I think we see a big bounce back week from Breece Hall. Please, don't bench Breece Hall this week. I think he's going to have a big game.
Again, this would be a huge overreaction. Of course, some of you will do it. Hopefully not you all watching this, but some people out there will bench Breece Hall. Somebody somewhere out there is going to drop Breece Hall. You're going to sell low on him. Don't do this. It's the opposite. He is still a stud running back. It was a bad week. I get it. Breece Hall is definitely someone you want in your lineup still. All right, now we're down to the next tier. We're going to call these guys solid starts at running back. Not necessarily must play, but also you probably don't have too many better options once you're down to this RB2, RB3 range. So let's go with the very definition of solid. David Montgomery, I mean, you know what he's getting you. If you got him, he's your RB2. Don't question it. I think we can question Ramondre Stevenson, though. What do you think we're going to get from him this week?
I think as long as he doesn't fumble, we're going to get a pretty nice Ramondre Stevenson game because we saw in this game, even though they technically benched him for Antonio Gibson, he got almost all the run in this game. So I think as long as he fumbles, he'll be solid. Now, it's not the best matchup against Houston, but he catches passes. I think he'll be solid this week.
There you go. Yeah, I think he's going to go back to being exactly what we had him pegged for. Very Monty-esque, a guy who's going to get nearly all the touches in that backfield. And look, I know it's not a great offense. Really, the only question I have is, what if they do switch to Drake May? Is that good or bad for Ramondre? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. All right, now Tony Pollard is coming off of two things. First of all, bye, so didn't play in week 5. But before that, coming off a strong game, but it was against the Dolphins' run defense. How in are you on Pollard as being a solid RB?
You got to be in because now it's the Colts defense. This is one of those defenses I talked about. If you watch the lessons learned video, you want to stream players against this defense. I know they're worse against the pass and the run, but they're still not very good against the run. I think Tony Pollard, a very good start this week.
All right, and then I think we got to feel the same way about DeAndre Swift against that Jags defense. Yeah, the Jags finally won. Not thanks to their defense. I mean, really buying in on Swift after, 2 good games?
I think we have to. I mean, this is another great matchup for him against the Jags. The way he's been the last 2 weeks, and look, he should be doing even better. This guy has had 5 goal line carries and only 1 touchdown. Keeps getting stopped at the 1-yard line. Kind of like what happened last year, right? But look, in this matchup, DeAndre Swift, he's got too much upside to bench.
And the one thing that we almost forget about because not really being fully utilized until just recently, DeAndre Swift, a great pass catcher out of the backfield. Only 2 catches, 47 yards last week, but he got a lot more than that the week before. His target share is pretty high. The Bears against the Jags, yeah, I know London games are risky, but I think Swift has that upside worth taking a chance on. And it's easy to forget Joe Mixon because we haven't seen him at all in the last few weeks. If this is the week that Mixon returns, just automatically slot him into your RB2 spot?
I think you have to. I mean, I don't think Cam Akers or Dare Ogunbue, I always mispronounce his last name, I don't think either of them ran away with this job. I think if Mixon is back, it's his job, and it's not a terrible matchup this week. I think if Mixon starts, you're starting him.
Yeah, my only reservation with Mixon is he coming back 100%? The fact that this injury has lingered makes me wonder. Mixon got a lot of tread in those tires, so let's see practice reports. If he's completely clear, good to go, yeah, I think you're probably putting him in there. All right, now it's time for those tough decisions, the guys who could be a flex choice, bye week fill-in, injury replacement, whatever it is. We're going to go through all these running backs. And by the way, if you feel like you're getting value from this video, don't forget, hit that like and that subscribe button. We appreciate it. All right, let's start out with that London game. We're going to have the Bears going against the Jags. And now all of a sudden, this Jaguar backfield looks like it is split. Oh, maybe even Tank Bigsby is the lead guy here. He should be the way he's been running. Are you buying into Tank as the lead guy or maybe just the better fantasy value? If you had to pick between these two, like, who do you prefer?
I think I still have to prefer Travis Etienne for that pass catching, but I think they're both very startable this week. The Bears, for as good of a defense they are, they do struggle a bit on the ground. We just saw Chuba Hubbard have a very nice game against them. I think they're both pretty startable this week.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, like, not like Bigsby's going to run away with a job or the Etienne is completely unusable. They talk about maybe Etienne was banged up. I don't buy that. I think both are usable. It's really depends. I mean, if you have somehow each of these guys on your team, yeah, I think Etienne's probably the guy I barely prefer. Same situation in Tampa. You got Rashad White. You got Bucky Irving. I mean, this looks like it's almost 50-50, but what if you have that same deliberation?
Yeah, again, I think they're both very startable this week. It's hard to pick between these two guys. I think I might slightly prefer Bucky because I feel like he's gotten more of the goal line work, but that could just be perception. But again, very, very close here. Not the best matchup for him. I don't expect big games, but if you need them this week, you can definitely start either of them.
It's interesting because we just assume, Rashad White gets more receptions. Bucky's the better runner, but finally, Rashad White outrushed Bucky Irving, and of course, Irving had that fumble late. I don't think it matters. Rashad White had that one long run. In fact, they say that he aggravated something. I'm not even sure if he's 100% healthy. I'm going to still prefer Bucky Irving. He just looks like the better runner, and his coach loves him. Commanders' offense is on fire now. Austin Eckler's part of it again after coming back from injury, but he gets that tough Ravens defense.
He does, but man, he looked pretty good on Sunday with a long run there. I know he fumbled at the end, but luckily Zacchaeus was hustling to cover it. But he looks pretty good. He catches passes. He's in this Washington offense. Maybe I don't want to flex him in a non-PPR league, but I think he's a very solid flex in a PPR league.
Well, it's interesting. I kind of just said that tough Ravens defense only against the run. Remember, this is now a pass funnel defense. They're horrible against the pass. Maybe that favors Eckler, right? Maybe B-Rob doesn't have a great rushing game again. Maybe they go to Eckler more out of the backfield. I'm not saying I would start him over Brian Robinson, but I think he's going to be maybe a sneaky good flex play this week. All right, Tyjae Spears in Tennessee. Again, coming off a bye week of rest. Maybe he's back to 100%. Maybe he's flex worthy.
Yeah, again, it's the Colts. We want to stream against the Colts. He scored the last time we saw this team. He's starting to get more involved. I think he's definitely flex worthy.
Well, in a PPR league, I'm going to have to clarify here. Yeah, he does have some value because he's used more as a pass catcher. I still can't put him over some of those other players we've already talked about, especially a guy like Eckler or Etienne. But yeah, if Tyjae Spears is your go-to because of bye weeks or whatever, he's fine. Now, I already kind of talked about that Texans backfield with Mixon. Let's assume Mixon is out again. Very possible. You got Akers, you got Ogunbowale. Any interest here?
I mean, look, sure, because they both, have value. Like Akers scored. Dare, I'm just going to call him Dare because I can't pronounce his last name, catches passes. He's involved as well. I think he even had more touches than Akers. So, yeah, I think they're both flex worthy. It's not the worst matchup this week.
No, I mean, it's the Patriots. This is going to be probably a slower game. I will say if Nico Collins is out, which seems like it's very possible, maybe they just need to run the ball more, but still, these aren't going to be necessarily my favorite options. Now, you might not want a piece of that Cleveland Browns offense these days, but look, Jerome Ford is still the lead back for what it's worth. Is he still flex option in your mind?
He's like the lower end of the flex option. Like he'll get it done for you. He'll do something. He won't kill you, but there's not a lot of upside here.
Yeah, I'm souring. I mean, obviously we all are in this whole Browns offense, but Ford specifically, I think this might be the time to kind of cut bait and see what you can get for him if you can trade him away. Because Nick Chubb at some point pretty soon will play. Whether he's good or not doesn't matter. They're going to give him touches. So I don't really want to start Ford, especially against the Eagles, and I'm probably going to look elsewhere, to be honest. Now, first couple of weeks, it was looking like J.K. Dobbins for MVP. Well, last couple of weeks, not so much. But still, Dobbins has got to be startable even against the Broncos defense.
Definitely. I think he's got to be one of your stronger options in this tier because he's getting all the touches here and he's even catching a decent amount of passes. Like the Broncos' run defense has been vastly improved from last year, but the volume is there for Dobbins. I think he's one of your stronger options in this tier.
Agree, exactly. When you line up all these options, and there are a lot, guys that you don't feel necessarily completely sold on. I'm not completely sold on Dobbins, but I feel better about him than a lot of these other running backs. All right, are you sold on the Broncos suddenly having some sort of offense, at least enough to make Javonte Williams fantasy relevant?
I am. They look pretty good. Now, I will say it's a tough matchup this week against the Chargers. Their defense is looking good. I wish it was a better matchup here, but Javonte has taken over this backfield. He's seventh among all running backs in expected fantasy points the last two games. He's been very unlucky at the goal line. I think he could score this week. So again, I think he's one of your stronger options in this tier.
Yeah, and partly kind of out of luck. I mean, Audric Estime, the rookie, has been hurt. I think he's still on IR. Tyler Beatty came in, looked good. He's hurt. Jaleel McLaughlin hasn't done much. It's annoying that he's been vultured at the goal line, but he does have some upside, and at least he's got a floor in PPR, so he's startable. I don't know if we can say that for Najee Harris. I mean, even in great matchups, he just continues to let down.
Right. Najee Harris is one of these guys, like, he's not going to hurt you. He's not going to kill your week, but he's probably not going to help it either. So if you just are looking for some points, that's Najee Harris.
Yeah, by some you mean not a lot. Like Najee Harris killed me a couple of weeks ago, and I thought he would actually have a big game against a horrible Colts run defense, and then against a not good Cowboys run defense, again nothing. I'm kind of done here. I would just sit Najee if I still had him. All right, now let's talk about that Bengals backfield. All of a sudden, it looks like both these players might have some value, but if Zach Moss is banged up, then Chase Brown has got to be the better pick.
Yeah, if Zach Moss is banged up or is totally out, Chase Brown might even have to be moved into the solid start category, I would say. But assuming Zach Moss is good to go and plays, I think both these guys are, again, two of the stronger options this week. They're getting similar usage. They both have chances to score. They're in a great offense. I mean, they're both two of the stronger options in this tier.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people were tilted on Zach Moss. I guess they were in on him for some reason last week, and people just really mad that he only got 24 yards. And part of that because he did leave at some point late in the game. My expectations are never that high for Zach Moss, but my expectations are now definitely higher for Chase Brown, a guy we were both big on in the draft season. So I'm selfishly kind of hoping Moss is out, so I have a good reason to start Chase Brown. If that's the case, then I definitely want Brown as a flex or an RB I might need. If Moss is playing, then it's, limited upside for both, but they're flexible. Now, last week we saw Tyron Tracy Jr. get a shot because Devin Singletary was out. Have no idea how that's going to play out this coming week. If Singletary's back, does that just mess the whole thing up?
I mean, it probably does to some degree. It's a good matchup, though, against this Bengals run defense. They're bottom 10 against the run. But if Singletary's back, I would think he's probably still the lead back, but I also think Tyrone Tracy has carved out a role. But I'll say this. If Devin Singletary is out, again, I think Tyrone Tracy probably needs to go to the solid start tier. He needs to probably move up a tier. But if they're both playing because of the matchup, I think they're both flexible.
Yeah, like anyone who picked up Tracy last week or this coming week, you're probably hoping Devin Singletary sits, but we can't guarantee that'll happen. So just going to have to keep an eye on this situation. That's all I can say for right now. And then we have to talk about Trey Sermon in this group because obviously if JT's out, he's definitely got starting value. I think some people feel like he should be higher on this list. We don't.
No, I mean, I know he had a nice game. He scored that touchdown. I mean, maybe if JT is out, he should deserve to be in the solid start, but I'm not ready for that. But I do think if JT is out this week, he might be the strongest player in this tier.
All right, coming around a little bit. I do get that there's some limited upside, but here's the other thing. Is Anthony Richardson going to play? I mean, I feel like this offense clicks better and is better for the running back if Joe Flacco's in. So a lot of question marks right now. I think right about now we can feel good about Sermon as a strong flex or RB3. Now, are we feeling better about Rico Dowdle in Dallas? I mean, it looks like he's their guy. Is he one of your guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of my guys. He was one of my guys this whole offseason, and unfortunately at the start of the season, I was like, well, I missed on that one, but nope, not so fast. Here we go. Rico Dowdle, lead back for Dallas. I would say if it wasn't the Lions, if it was a better matchup, he would probably be my favorite start in this tier. But it is the Lions. It is a tough defense. I mean, but he's been good against tough defenses the last 2 weeks. I think he's at least one of the better starts in this tier.
Well, and the upside here is he's been used as a receiver. Obviously, you saw that touchdown he grabbed on Sunday night. And he's getting used near the goal line, so all encouraging for him. Yeah, just the matchup isn't ideal, so just keep that in mind. And then Braylon Allen, not quite as exciting as he was a couple of weeks ago, is he? But I think he's at least a flex option.
Yeah, again, because like what we said with Brees Hall, this is such a good matchup against this Bills run defense. You got to think this is going to be a game where the Jets use the running backs more than Aaron Rodgers, especially Aaron Rodgers may be a little banged up. So in this matchup, I think Braylon Allen is definitely worth a flex.
Right. Again, you can't just completely forget about a guy like him. And if people are now going to be out on Brees Hall because of last week, people are just going to be dropping Braylon Allen. I guarantee it this week. He still has touchdown upside, so just keep him here. Again, I don't want to start him unless I'm in need, meaning injury, bye, whatever. But he is still a decent option. Now, if you don't have enough options from those tiers we already mentioned, these are the desperation picks. Guys, you don't really want to start, but look, sometimes it just be like that. You need one of these guys to fill a spot. So if you're going to have to pick from this list, who is your favorite?
I think I'm going to have to go with Rashawn Johnson. I know he's not going to keep scoring touchdowns every single week, but he has 3 touchdowns over the last 2 games, and now he gets the Panthers, who I talked about when I talked about DeAndre Swift, have given up 10 touchdowns to running backs already. Why can't he score again this week? I mean, if we're in this tier, give me somebody with touchdown upside. He's got it.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to look at matchup here. I mean, a lot of these players might get more touches than the average backup, but I'm going to go with, I think, perceived game script. I think this might be a Justice Hill week. At least by that, I mean, he's usable this week, right? Because some weeks he gives you nothing, some weeks he comes out of nowhere. Washington defense has been legit. I really think Dan Quinn is a smart enough coach and defensive mind. They're going to load up on Derrick Henry and just try to stuff him. Washington has been really good on offense. Baltimore's been mostly bad on defense, especially against the pass. So I think maybe they have to deploy Justice Hill as a weapon out of the backfield. So look, if I have to plug and play somebody, he would be my choice. And even as desperate as you may be at running back, there are some players we just cannot recommend. These are running backs we are going to avoid outright in week 6. All right, don't forget, we got start sit advice for you at every position, including, of course, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, and so much more. Check out this week's playlist for all of that.